Welcome to the Executive Coaching Podcast, where Executive Coach Alicia Cowan will discuss leadership topics and coaching solutions to tackle the most difficult problems that keep you from leading your team to success.
Hey there, listeners. Before we jump in today, I really want to invite you to something special that I'm doing to finish out the year. I'm doing a live coaching session. It's called Finish Strong, Executive Presence, and the Final Stretch. Here's the details. It's happening on December 7th, which is a Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern. So it's that perfect sweet spot where you're about to wrap up the weekend and you're about to head into the week. And it's that perfect moment right before we end out the end of the year, right as we're diving into December. So what the session will look like, it's a live interactive hour where I can coach you exactly through the tools that I use with my C-suite clients. And it helps them stay calm, confident, and effective, especially during this chaos at the end of the year. So if you are a senior executive leader and you're starting to feel this pressure of the year end, everything from budgets to performance reviews, the holidays, and you're just trying to get everything done, then this is for you. I want you to think of this like podcast office hours. If you have been a longtime listener and you have not had the chance to meet with me yet, live and in person, this is your shot. You can bring your questions, you can email them to me in advance, and I will answer them and coach you live if you want to get that experience. So here's the deal. You can grab your seat at executivecoach.myflowdesk.com/finish strong. And that's a lot. And so I'm going to make it easy on you. You just go to my show notes and you can click the link and sign up and register and save your seat. And I will hope to see you there. I will be so excited to see some of you listeners and, more importantly, help you get through the end of the year in a way that reflects your executive presence. Talk to you soon, friends. Welcome back to the Executive Coaching Podcast. I'm Alicia Cowan, and today we have an extra special guest. I don't normally have guests on the podcast, and so when I do, it's super fun for me. And today is especially fun for me because we are live and in person, and typically we're recording and meeting each other over Zoom. And so I want to tell you a little bit about my guest. She is a fantastic leader that I have known for, I think, almost 5 years now. I think we're going on 5 years. She is a very accomplished leader. She is this amazing beauty brand called Patrick Ta. And if you don't know, you need to look it up immediately. So welcome to the podcast, Sarah Bethel.
Thank you.
It's
wonderful to be here in person.
Great. And I know we're staring at each other in the eyeballs, which nobody can see right now, but that's okay. But I want to talk a little bit about your rise to COO because it's been incredible. I've been lucky enough to be along with you on this journey.
Nor would have it happened without you.
Well, and same to you. I owe you a ton. So I'd love for you to talk about how we met, but also your career arc because it's been incredible.
Yeah, it's been it definitely has been a big leap over the last few years. So I first met you when I called, we've had a few of these over the past 5 years, but this really was like the emergency coaching moment of, I had never had a coach before, but was promoted quickly from a senior director to a VP and was taking on a bunch of new categories of people that I had not led. And a mutual I remember panicking to a mutual friend, and she's like, I know a coach. And so we were recommended, and we kind of hit it off the first time. And we've been working together about the last 5 years.
Yeah, it's been so fun. Yeah, and shout out to her. She knows who she is. But, I think a lot of leaders feel the same way that you did. And I always say this, when I coach leaders, they're not typically in underperforming crisis mode areas where they need to just get back up to a level of performing well. They're performing exceptionally well. Yeah. You had just taken a new role. You had been at Bath and Body Works, an extremely successful company, and then you leapt to the next thing and you were taking on the next level. And so if anybody looks at this from the outside, everything's going really well.
Yeah.
And it was.
It was. Yeah. I had just been promoted.
Yes.
And that's when I was like, oh, now I need even more help. So it wasn't, I need help to get the promotion or I needed help to stay in my job. It was, I had a lot of success and I was like, I need I now need to do this differently or add more tools to my toolbox.
Yep. Like optimize and like go to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, no, and I think you've always been somebody that's open and vulnerable, and not a lot of leaders don't want to be that vulnerable. But to say like nothing was going wrong, it's more so there was a lot going right and you wanted to capitalize on what was going right and go to the next level. Like it was really fun. But I think investing in yourself and your team at that moment, I think was massive. And that's kind of how we started our one-on-one work together, was you talking about where you were at, but eventually that also spread into support for your team.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I have to give a lot of credit to the CEO that I was working for at the time. She, I think without it being overt, really led with a culture of coaching. I mean, she was very transparent and vulnerable about her mentorships and her coaching. And so it was never like, Sarah, you need to go get coached or you need a coach. It just felt very natural that that is an avenue that we would seek as leaders that were in her space. And so while I initially kind of panicked and found you out of fear and panic, I also say like at the time when I moved from, a role that was very familiar to me, I knew how to do it. I had done all the roles that I was leading, so I was at one point a very good supply planner or a very good sourcing analyst. And so this was the first role that I was leading people with, more tenure or more expertise. And it was also a large hourly workforce, and I did not have the experience there. And so, how would I show up, especially in a remote situation? We were still heavy in the COVID lockdowns and eras. And so it was just very different. And, it was kind of when the imposter syndrome word was coming around for the first time. And it was the first time that I was like, oh, that feels like what I feel. Like I don't belong here and I can't do this. And I'm not ready. And so I think finding that confidence through coaching and unlocking new tools and thinking about things, I think the biggest thing that unlocked for me was really helped me to define my leadership style and not be ashamed. Like the leadership style, I think, was the ultimate conversation early on that has unlocked that not only for me, but then we've used that across my teams and being confident and really purposeful on my style.
No, that was number one. And
Yeah,
what's so
first
fun
day.
is
Yeah.
you have such an like, and I will say like that exercise, you're right, that exercise is helpful, but a lot of times, usually it's typically taking what already exists in you and just being like making it like okay, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like or being objective to show it to you, right? Because I think you had those things within you already, but it was like putting the North Star and defining it and saying this is what makes Sarah Sarah, and let's like capitalize on that.
Agree. And I think there was a big change for me personally, though, with the new reporting relationship, because I had always co-worked with my leaders, right? So, or they were very supply chain oriented.
Yep.
So it was very much walk down the hall and, collaborate on X or join this call together. And I went from a very clear co-working relationship where they were very supply chain or knew exactly what was going on to having, 15 to 30 minutes of one-on-one time with a CEO who has way bigger fish to fry to some extent. And so how do I get my message straight in those 30 minutes that I have? What to escalate, when to escalate, how to fight for my seat at the table if supply chain wasn't getting, luckily in COVID, we had a lot of focus, but it was a big change in reporting to a CEO versus, somebody that was very operationally focused on their day to day.
Yeah.
So that was also the big transition. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big change. I'd say like make that switch and transition. And even it's not necessarily, again, you're still doing some of the work that feels familiar, but you have to speak about it or lead or do something different in a completely different way. Was there any other ways? I know you talked a little bit about like what changed for you after we worked together, but was there anything else that you would say like how you grew the most? Is that as that VP to SVP, right? You did make that leap again within that same organization as well.
Years,
yeah.
I would say once we started working together, and I have to like, it wasn't a daily. Like we would meet every 2 months.
Yep.
Perhaps maybe like a text here or there of how to navigate.
Yeah.
But I felt an almost immediate change just in my ability to hold my head a little differently. I felt very comfortable asking for help or clarity where things weren't. I think there was a lot of tools and templates that you were just able to just try this in your one-on-ones, try this, a lot of org design help of, I think we spent a lot of time like, what do you have? What do you need? How are you going to get there? How are you going to ask about this? I think I felt more courageous around attracting the right talent and exiting the talent. Really focused. I think you helped unlock a lot about communication and the cadence, the timings. What is my message? How are we going to do that? Whether it's daily stand-ups, kind of a weekly, as the organization got larger, really challenging me about how do you get your message out? It's really easy when you have 5 to 8 people. Like you can talk to them every day.
Yeah.
But once you get into those 40, 50 people, how are you making sure that you're all like working towards the same strategy, that they hear your voice, they see your style? So there was a lot of work done in how do I communicate? How do I cascade the timing, the audience? How do you make those moments count that you're together? And so again, going back to the work around leadership style, that I also think you encouraged me to just be my own weird self. Like I'm not a one size fits all. And I give a lot of credit to the women that I worked for before, but at one point I was just repeating their behaviors because I saw that they were successful. And I said, oh, well, then I will do that same thing. And not all of it always felt authentic and or didn't translate outside of the organization that I was in. So I stopped kind of making excuses about, like I am going to spend money sending birthday cards, or I'm going to, do things that are a little different. And it really caught on, and it made me proud to lead the team. I think the team really embraced it. And my new team is getting to know me too. Like, I love a handwritten note. And, I think at Paula's or Unilever, we quickly went from the team, that nobody wanted to be on. And one of the girls that I know that we both know said, like, at one point we were like the land of broken toys, right? Like nobody wanted to work with us. We were always the team that was disappointing people. And I felt like throughout the tenure, we ended up being one of the teams that people wanted. Like we led in engagement, we led in empathy, we led in doing the right thing, strong values. And at that point, there really was an appetite in the organization to say, we want more of this. Like we see the engagement, we see the results that this organization's having. And that's when we started to bring you in to do a lot of the new manager and leadership training across the organization.
Wow. I blushed just listening to that. I will say it's fun to think about like all that work, right? And even just hearing it, I don't think I've ever heard it in that way out of your point of view. But I think there's something I think that just resonated, I think, to just like the thought process. I think sometimes when we think you get to that certain level, like it's the activities.
Yeah.
And that counts. But it's like the way you said it, it's just like something changed and my head was held higher. Yeah. And it was like different than who I was before, like stepping into that leader. And it's like, if you would have just said, just go do these activities without some of that work around like owning who you are first, then going into the templates and the tools and things, right? Like to me, like that stood out. Cause I think that did pivot and change for you. Cause even how you walked into it, you're like, who do I want to be on the other side of this? Like you like saw the vision and then you executed it. You really did.
And it was a mismatch of behaviors that I absolutely admired.
Yeah.
And behaviors that I had seen that I was like, in 5 years, I don't
want to do this.
I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Like I was very aware of the transformation I would have to do as a human.
Yeah.
To come out like where I wanted to be on my 5-year plan.
Yeah.
Like I was going to have to change my behaviors too.
So good. It's so powerful. But no, I think about that, right? Because, you're thinking about that vision and like stepping through that, right? In so many leaders, I hear that all the time, right? How did you learn to lead, or how did you learn to take on those leadership, traits or whatever? And it's always like, I saw it either done really well, but more often than not, it's like, I've seen it done really poorly, and I definitely don't want to be that. So I know I don't want to do that, but that doesn't necessarily give you like the direction or the North Star just because you're like, I don't want to be micromanager, or I don't want to be the jerk, or I don't want to be that. And that's fine for sure. Those things are important, but more often than not, right? It's like, I just don't want to do that versus I'm intentionally going to try on this behavior. And I think it's fine, right? I think the conversation is like, yeah, I see you've worked for some great leaders as well. And it's like, I see those traits that I want to take on, but sometimes they just don't feel perfectly right. Like you're saying, like, it's like I try on a piece of clothing and you're like, this is kind of itchy and it's not really me. And maybe it's great, but it's like, let's put that aside and then put on something that like feels like truly you, that's like embodying who you want to be as a leader. So I think it's really powerful.
I promised to myself, I think when I joined Unilever, I did to somewhat reinvent myself. Like
Yeah.
I had the fortune of being a remote leader. And so I think in my prior role, I was maybe one that worked later than they should have. In this role, I was like, I play tennis in the morning. And I'm the leader that, has a family dinner. And I just started believing that myself. And then the behaviors kind of got there, right?
Yeah.
So I did, that first year really dive into making sure that I had hobbies and friendships outside of work that weren't just work.
Yep.
And that, I was known as somebody who prioritized, their friends and family, but also could, dig in and spend time working a problem better than anybody. So I think I did a better job with the transition of becoming that leader that I was hoping to be, or that I wanted other, especially like working moms or new moms, to have that space to say like, she understands.
Yeah. And I was so lucky to work really closely with your team, and that absolutely came through. And I'm glad you called that out, because I remember I still have it ingrained in my brain that first time you were like, yeah, I am someone, like you said, that I'm just someone who plays tennis in the morning.
Yeah.
And you weren't that at the time.
I wasn't before,
right?
yeah.
And I will say, like, calling back on something else you said before too, you were like, I'm not afraid to ask for help. Like, I've seen you role model even this for me. Like, I think leaders that don't surround themselves with a team, right? You have said it. You're like, I have somebody that will help me at home. I have somebody that will help me with if you had a big speech, right? A big public speaking event, I have someone that helps me with this. And you have no fear in saying, I know what I do best.
Yeah.
I'm a supply chain leader, or I'm a COO, and I do this best, but some of this other stuff, right, is not my most important thing. But maybe family dinner is my most important thing, or whatever it is. But I've seen you surround yourself with that help. And I saw you, like you said, be super intentional. You're like, I think you said, like, I cannot lose myself in this job.
Yeah.
And it could easily, and so many leaders do that, right? They easily do that. But it's fun to watch you as you've role modeled that. And I've seen in your team as well, feel like, I worked with some of your working parents, and they were like, I know I can do this job and be a working parent and I've seen, I've been with some of your leaders who've started families that have done different things, right? And because they're like, I can do it.
Yeah, we're cheering them on.
Yeah,
we're not
totally cheering them on.
We got you. Like, we will figure it out. And I love that. I hope that that's a culture that we all, and I hope that they then build that culture for their teams. I do think one of my best friends calls me the human shortcut. And my mom always raised me that said, if you have a cell phone and a credit card, you can do anything.
Yeah.
And I do think, the ability to not glamorize trying to do it all yourself is something that I've learned over the last few years. You can just ask for help, whether it's household help, professional, like bring in a consultant. You don't have to do it yourself. Like, there are consultants that are amazing that will provide that lift and shift. And we're really quite better at it than us trying to muscle things from scratch.
Yeah.
So I think asking for help, both in my personal life and professional life, has been life-changing.
You want to talk about like this whole like rise, the career dream?
Yeah.
Because I love this story. Love this story. So this is selfish, but I was shocked, I think, early on when we first met, you were like, I've always, I was a little girl, I dreamed of being a COO.
And driving a Volvo.
And driving the Volvo, both of which have come true.
Yes.
Which is like, they're like, who is a little girl and dreams like, I want to be a COO, right? At least in our generation.
Yeah,
and I will say this, in our generation, but it's a fascinating story.
I was reflecting on this. I don't think it was like my second grade, that probably wasn't what I was dreaming about. But I do, like, it was very early on that I was like, I want to lead an organization. And I come from a family of, like, lovely family of general practitioners, right? So family, practitioners that they are very based in the community. They do a lot of things well, but they're not specialists, right? And so they see a bunch of chaos. They see, big things, little things, and they manage it. There's a lot of challenges. But really, their normal day to day is kind of normal, right? Like, it is kind of an 8 to 5 with some random phone calls on the weekends and the evenings. And so while, some of it's the same. The challenge is what they see on a day-to-day basis. Some things they have the muscles for, and some things are really new and different, and they have to, send them to a specialist. So coming from that background, it's comical that both my brother and I lead supply chains, or, so we're both in that now. But I think I was always really infatuated about knowing enough about a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm not the specialist, maybe in like a few areas, like that's really maybe I'm better at or more passionate about. But there's always like another crisis or another heart attack around the corner, right? It's not, you're not going to have like weeks where nothing goes not wrong. So I think I've always been attracted to roles and leadership roles where you can thrive and manage in the chaos. And so I I think I really, when I started out in the corporate world, I really admired the COOs because they had such broad experience. They could go deep when they needed, but really understood the heartbeat of the organization and really focused internally on the organization about making the associates great, making, training and development opportunities, making it a great place to work, cascading the company goals. And the operations, like I still am a nerd. Like I will go watch product being made. I love a warehouse tour. So I do naturally like have a lot of passion about the logistics and manufacturing space.
Yeah, what a unique blend. And I will say this too, like as a leader, you index heavily on the leadership side as well, which is sometimes rare for the operations leader. Let's be real.
I'm a different bird.
You are, for sure. But no, it's a fascinating story about how you've risen to that level. And to be honest, it was a surprise, right? Like it was a surprise about this role. You weren't necessarily, as you and I were talking, you weren't actively like out there seeking
role,
that title.
Yeah. I will say, it's funny that we're here in Florida because that's, there's like a spot where I remember answering the phone call right outside of our building, and it was a headhunter, and they're like, hey, what about this role? And I remember being like, not interested. I'm really good. And at the time, it wasn't in any sort of plan to look for a new job. Like I really was having a fabulous year at Unilever. Some of the meatiest projects were ahead of us. A new distribution center in Australia, and potentially a new repackage, and new systems. And so all these like lovely projects that I couldn't wait to sink my teeth into. And the team was we had just done like a global offsite, and we had 83 people from all over the globe come in, and just was feeling the ultimate love and brand love. And I think you and I had talked a few months before, and we were undergoing a CEO change. And while that brings all kinds of nerves, I said, you know what, I'm going to go back and get into my skincare routine and love the brand again. So I did like a hard 30 for 30 days and my skin got so much better, because we always say when they would start, they would have this new associate glow because everybody's, got better. And so I did. I like went back in and fell in love with the brand and was just really on a really good trajectory when I got the headhunter call. And I remember saying the first time no, and I gave the headhunter everybody's name I knew that would maybe be interested. And then they called back a few weeks later and said, no, we've been through them. We think it's you. And I was like, it's not me. But at that point, I think it had, it started in my head like, oh, maybe.
What if?
What if? And I started learning more about Patrick and the artistry and the products. And, I go to Sephora once a week, and I was like, this brand's on fire.
Yep.
And so then we started having the conversations, and I was like, I might be doing this.
Yeah. I remember you said no quite a few times.
I did.
You still pursued you. That's got to feel pretty good.
I know.
That's got to feel pretty amazing.
It was good.
That's amazing. As we think about this too, and we're thinking about the next generation, because I think you said it pretty well about setting the example as a working parent, setting the example within not only your company, but I think for a lot of people that look up to you and follow you. What would you advise somebody or give somebody in terms of thinking about stepping into the next role, stepping into the C-suite, or even your younger self now that's like achieved this goal?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I think there's value in the external coach, and I don't think I understood that even existed. I wish at 5 or 7 years in my career, I would have invested in the external coach. And I want to be very clear about that, because I had great coaching. in my corporate time. There was wonderful learning and development programs, wonderful mentorships. I had fabulous HR partners. But the external coach provided so much value in showing that there was a different way to do things. Companies operated differently, and a really safe space for me to lay my fears out there without it being kind of back channeled or put on a performance review at some point, right?
Yeah.
So that neutral party, I think I also am just always fascinated that you don't tell me what to do. Like I've called you a few times, like, should I do this? And you're like, well, I'm not going to tell you. Like I would be like, do you think I should take this job? And you will never say yes or no. It's always like, well, here's a checklist. Let's make a checklist, or like pro con list, like you always give the tools, but rarely will you tell me like, you need to go do this. Right. Yeah. And so I think that the outside coach, I wish I would have known earlier, because I think that would have been valuable into helping me just get outside perspectives and not mimic only the leadership styles I had seen, but really continue to develop my own style. And I think just always the power of your network, especially external to the company that you're in. That was one of the other funny things about this job is as I started having conversations, the amount of people that were connected to either Patrick Ta or Stride, who's, our private equity partner, were just unbelievable. And so my network, whether I use them for questions, for support, for ideation, et cetera, has just been amazing. And I don't think I would have had that appreciation early. So spending time in network, going to trade shows, conferences, spending time in coffee, just like have coffee with people. I didn't learn that early enough. And that has just been a huge unlock to both me being professionally successful because I have tools or know where to go or know who to ask for help. Yeah. But just the amount of new ideas I can bring in has been huge too.
So good. And some people don't realize that. And by the way, audience, I did not pay her to say that about the coaching.
Yeah.
but I think it's what I realize is it can be helpful as you ascend to those certain levels, you don't have the outlet. You can't vent down. No. You can't vent to your colleagues or have that objective outside point of view. And sometimes it can be scary when you're in a new organization to who do I turn to? And that network is surprising to me about how many people don't think about it or don't realize. They just kind of put their head down and work, and they get to that certain level and they're like, oh shoot, I gotta go, and you have an amazing network, but it sounds like that was intentional as well. Like you really thought about it.
I got that piece of advice from actually the headhunter that found me to go to Unilever. I think he said, I didn't have a LinkedIn profile with a picture or anything on it because, why would I, right?
Yeah.
And he said, no, there's value in LinkedIn, not so much that you're going to get seen. Like the recruiters already know who you are, so you don't need it to find your job, but you really need to have a presence because your vendors, as you go into a new job, your team, that's their first view of you. And so you're going to instill more confidence in either, getting the offer and getting the compensation that you're kind of trying to negotiate because you're a proven vessel, right? Yeah. So I think about that a lot. It's not just LinkedIn, but my network in general. I've purposely built and kept active and keep connecting because it has paid me back. Any minute I spend in the network has always paid back, for whether it's a reference or an idea or getting to a solution faster because I can know exactly who to go to. So I think that was huge. I think also, being in a smaller company is a great fit for me. I think I so appreciate my corporate years, but realistically there was 5 of me, right? And there's competition. And so you kind of have to it's a lot easier sometimes in a smaller organization where you can wear many hats. And I enjoy that. I think it's fun to wear as many as possible.
I was going to ask you actually though, but you were talking about being in a smaller company versus a larger company because you have the luxury of being at L Brands and Bath and Body. It's massive, big brands, and you've also had the luxury and Paula's Choice was this intermediate, right? This smaller organization within a bigger Unilever. Massive organization, and now Patrick, and I think it's so cool. But the variety of experiences you've had. But is there anything interesting you can share about being closer to the founders? Because you got a chance to kind of be within those companies, and now you got to see Paula, and now you get to see Patrick like right
Yeah.
up close. Is there anything different that like
I think you
can
need
share?
both. Like I'm so lucky and fortunate that I've had both. I think when I think about the L Brands, Bath and Body Works, Victoria's Secret days, the training, the tools, the technology, like the process. I mean, the fact that there were so many documented, long-standing processes, that were tested and existed on, a SharePoint or a wall somewhere, right? And really the discipline, I learned the discipline around inventory and financial responsibilities and audit, right? You had to go in front of audit, and that was so important that things were tested and proven. I also think I learned a lot around the rigor of talent, doing the interview process correctly and without as much bias as possible, doing your annual reviews, your mid-year check-ins, your goals, being very formal about that has helped in smaller companies. But I think the downside is sometimes it's very slow. It would take months to get an approval on some of the tooling or, new vendor ads. So the founder led, it is fun because many times I am the decision maker, right? And it's like, oh, like we can just, we got this. We know how to do this, or I know this lever that I can pull. But at the same time, there are no room for mistakes. I think about Patrick constantly that his name is on the product. It's not my name, it's his name and it's his reputation. And we're in a very social media heavy company. And I think about that all the time, that it's his reputation. And so it has to be right.
Yeah.
Whereas I think, at the larger organizations, we had clearance stores, we had outlet malls, we had semi-annual sale. It was just so big that if a few weren't right, you could absorb it. So the founder, it really makes a difference because you don't have the opportunity to hide some of the mistakes that you did in some of the larger, pieces and parts. It's also just really fun to see his technique come to life through product because, there's the product, but then how he applies it, the tools, learning about the different brushes and, how to physically do this and become an artist in my own right has been, I'm taking lessons. This is not something that I was really good at. So I'm learning how to contour, and it's been absolutely enjoyable.
Yes, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the fun part. I totally been diving in. I've been binging on Patrick Ta videos. I'm not going to lie. My favorite technique currently that I've tried that I've never done before is underpainting.
Yes.
I underpainted today with She's a Doll. I give it a try. But is there anything that you're obsessed with? Like favorite products, anything that,
we have the Allure Best of 25 foundation. And I will say it's totally transformed, my look, because it does give like a nice glow, like a radiant glow. And then his blush technique is none other. So it's most people just do one or the other. He has a duo. So you do the powder and then you do the cream, and it lasts all day. You get this nice glow. Like I can almost tell now when I see people, I'm like, oh, she's got Patrick's cheeks on. So I'm into the cheeks right now and trying the different colors. I'm not quite to underpainting yet. maybe next quarter.
Now that you got that foundation.
Yeah, the cheeks have really made me, I think we look young. I think we look like we have a lot of energy. There's a lot that I think when I put, I won't even say full beat because I'm not qualified yet for my full beat, but when I do like my mini beat, I feel better about myself when like I got my cheeks going on.
Yeah, I saw some really glam photos of you. I think you went to an event like black tie, and I could tell she looks very glamorous.
Yes. I did not do my own makeup for that. My makeup coach did my makeup.
It looked amazing.
Yes. That I know when to outsource because that would stress me out of doing my own for an event where I'm going to be photographed with like one of my favorite authors. So I know to like outsource my makeup that evening.
Well, I could tell you looked amazing. I could tell. I was just like, oh my gosh, she's got the whole look going. Yeah. But and that blush technique is I would have never thought, right? No. The powder, then
the cream.
And you're like, what? what is all this? And this, like, but it's like, it makes such a difference. It almost looks like it's coming in from the inside
Yeah.
out rather than it
Yeah.
like being like, you know.
I mean, we can
on
tie
top.
it cheesily back to coaching that it's also in the tools. Like you need
That's
the
right.
brush, you need to understand,
good.
you have to watch the video, you need train. Because
Yep.
if you just do it without the tools or the training, it's gonna.
Oh yeah. My husband noticed. He's like, "What are you wearing?" He's like, "What's going on with this like pink cheek that you've had recently?" And I'm like, "Oh,
She's a
it's
doll.
Patrick's tie. Like,
I
come on, babe." But yeah, and it does make a difference.
Yeah, the
It's
brand's on
so-
fire. It's so fun to walk into a Sephora. I usually do tell them that I'm, I work for the brand, and there's so much. The makeup artistry community they are just the most lovely community. They are so invested. It's rooted in education. It's rooted in artistry. They have tried everything. They are beyond loyal to the ones that work. And I had a lot of fun in skincare, but makeup is a wild ride because it's instant, right? Skincare
Yeah.
sometimes take 4 to 6
Yeah.
weeks. You got to do it every day.
Yep.
Like the immediate satisfaction when you're like, oh, I just, like 5 or 6 minutes, like I look good.
Yeah.
And it's been a really fun community to engage with. I love, watching all the get ready with me's. I love like gifting my friends product and they, they're like, I'm glowing. I get so many compliments, et cetera. So it's been a great 6 or 7 months in the new role.
It's so fun. I can't wait. And I know we can't tell everybody what the new products are, but there are a bunch of launches coming.
I think it's a heavy new product development launch. I mean, even compared to the velocity that I would see in like a Bath and Body Works, like the amount of newness that he's going to present next year is just, it's unrivaled.
So
we are going to
fun.
be so busy and so fun.
I can't wait to be along for this journey. It's going to be so fun. Well, I mean, this is a great conversation that I honestly could have for the rest of the day. My sweet husband is going to be picking you up soon. So anything you want to leave with the audience, emerging leaders or future executives, anything that you want people to take away?
I think if any of my former teammates are listening, they would be dissatisfied if I didn't mention maybe 1 or 2 things. I have a very rigorous travel protocol. Mm-hmm. And so one of my first bosses professionally gave me this advice, and it was buy not just good luggage, great luggage. Like I don't check a bag. I'm not going to be super judgy if you're a bag checker or not, but
sure.
Like buy the great luggage. It just makes your trip a lot smoother. And if you have a trip where like you have a broken wheel, like it sounds so silly, but I'm so passionate about a good suitcase.
Yep.
We could, like I'll talk all day about my travel tips.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that I've done in the past year, and this is not me, this is a group of amazing women. One of the ones that introduced us, we have started to celebrate everything.
Yes.
Because we're now in this, like everybody's married, everybody's had kids. And we like miss the celebrations.
Yeah.
And so anytime anybody does a new job, we've had somebody write books, like we are getting together to celebrate all the things.
I love it.
And so we have this group text and we go to dinner or we host, and we're really celebrating the women and the achievements because we don't do that enough. And so we really are supporting each other with celebrations, big or little. So that has just been such an additive part in my life the last maybe 2 years of just no excuses. Like we're celebrating.
Yep.
You wrote a book, we're celebrating. You got a new job, we're celebrating.
So good.
And that has been like celebrations for, the biggest and the smallest reasons that, especially, as women support each other. That's maybe the next tip is like find your group that you celebrate absolutely everything with.
That's fantastic. It's so good. The weddings and the baby showers,
they're over.
Right? But yes, and for us, continuing to climb, right? And you have, I know the group you run with, and very accomplished. It's very inspiring, right? So like to have that, and those are major milestones, right? So I hope there was a killer COO party.
There was. It was really fun. They had drinks. My dear friend made drinks that were inspired by Patrick's makeup. So there was, like she's blushing, and I had like, oh my gosh, almost 60 people, some of the best leaders I've worked for and some of the best teammates I've had. It was quite the evening. It was quite lovely.
So fun. So fun. Okay. Well, before we close out, anywhere you want people to follow you? Do you want people to follow you on LinkedIn?
I'm on LinkedIn. Yes. It's Sarah Bethel. I am speaking at Manifest in February with a really well-esteemed beauty panel. And I do a little LinkedIn now and then.
Yeah, you do a great job.
Yeah, we'll talk every once in a while about things that were going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's probably the best place to find me.
Yeah, totally. You do a great job of like keeping people up to date, and you put some really inspiring posts out there too. It's
Thank
really
you.
fun.
Yeah.
Really
good.
fun. Well, Sarah,
Thank you. This was lovely to be here.
oh my gosh, so great to have you on the show. And we're going to bring you back.
Okay.
And we're going to updates, and we want to keep updates because we're going to be together for the next journey in your career. So appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, leaders. If today's episode hit home and you're ready to wrap up this year with calm, confidence, and real executive presence, then please come join me for my live coaching session called Finish Strong. It's the executive presence in the final stretch of 2025. Again, as a reminder, it's on Sunday, December 7th, 4 p.m. Eastern, and I'm treating it like live office hours for my podcast listeners. Y'all have been amazing this year and so supportive, and I've loved interacting with you when I get a chance to talk with you one-on-one. And so this is my way of getting to interact with you as a large group, and I would love to see you there. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to walk you through my 10-second reset, the clarity sentence, and how to close conversations with power and alignment. So some tactical tools, but of course, if you've been a longtime listener, you know we can't leave it without some mindset. So we're going to also do some real coaching, and you have an opportunity to coach with me during that call. It is one of the best opportunities you can get to interact with me live before 2025 ends. So I would love to see you there. Go to this website. It's executivecoach.myflowdesk, and Flowdesk is FLODESK.com/finish strong. Or keep it simple. Just tap the link in the show notes and I will see you there. And don't wait. I only do live coaching like this a very few times a year. And if we like this format, and then I am going to keep it going for 2026. So I would love to see you there, would love to get your feedback, and I will talk to you soon. Till next time. Bye, friends.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Executive Coaching Podcast with Alicia Cowan. If you're ready to have an executive coach who's ready to help you lead your team to success, then book an introductory call at aliciacowancoaching.com/call.